Counting all my blessings. One thing in the air. If you know you blessed.
KFX Kicks.
I'm counting all my blessings. Counting all my blessings. I'm 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 counting all my blessings. Amen. Amen. Hey, I'm Poker Jones and I'm blessed. Told the game I'm next. Home kick with the bodybuilders, no Poker Jones, don't flex. I'm out here counting my blessings, cause you don't know when the next. My brother just did 15 years, he coming home. Bless. My best friend tried to do me in and I seen he coming, then stress it. But I cut it off before he could. That's what you call a blessing. Everybody ain't your friend. Finding out is a blessing. Some folks try to use you up, they think you they blessing. Man, Lord, people hard to find. Finding something is a blessing. They'll keep it real in your face, but behind your back they miss them. When Black died, I called my cross and I gave it to him the blessing. I told him, cool, no matter what, I'ma help the family, I bless them. I'm counting all my blessings. Counting all my blessings. I'm 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 counting all my blessings. If you don't think life is a blessing, that mean we ain't on the same team. You ain't seen the things that I seen. I turned nightmares into dreams. We got put out the house, whole family. I think God was just trying to test us, cause that made us strong and that brought us closer. That's what you call a blessing. I wasn't born with it, I had to get it. All the money was a blessing. Small money was a blessing, but that tall money, blessing. My sister about to have surgery. I told her don't even worry. She told me I ain't even stressing. I'm counting all my blessings. I salute the two to do what they do that ain't out here just flexing. Everybody ain't a hustler. Being one is a blessing. Dropped out of school in 11th grade. I told him I don't need no lesson. Before grandma died, she told me go on back. That's what you call a blessing. I'm counting all my blessings. Counting all my blessings. I'm 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 counting all my blessings. Hey, I'm helping you, you ain't helping me. You better recognize your blessing. And that's a true sentence with no period on it, no explanations or questions. And I put that on this gold watch, this gold ring in my necklace. I'm a money machine investing. I'm counting all my blessings. My uncle just started smoking dope, he ain't need rehab testing. Now he getting money like a Mexican. That's what you call a blessing. I hate a job is the hate. I don't deal with them, they trash it. We ain't built the same, they plastic. I'm counting all these blessings. You blessed, you got family. They got your bag like Hanley. They'll scrape the plate till you have it. No matter what they standing. They subtract the haters, they ain't worth nothing. About riches, I want treasures. I'm Poker Jones and I'm focused on just counting all my blessings. I'm counting all my blessings. Counting all my blessings. I'm 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 counting all my blessings. Amen. Amen.
Louisville's finest, DJ Ice.
97 The Beat FM.
Welcome to Conscious Fever with Carl Price on 97thebeatfm.com.
Good evening. Welcome to Conscious Fever here on 97thebeatfm.com. I am your host, Carl Price, on this first day of summer. DJ Ice. Here with DJ Ice tonight for our show on Conscious Fever. Welcome, everybody. Welcome all my friends on Facebook to the Facebook Live broadcast. Welcome to the Ustream audience, and welcome to the audience over here, and welcome to the live audience. Got two young men here today that are not going to be my guest. One has a Wildcat shirt on, and one has another brand shirt on that I won't mention because they're not paying our bills here today. But to the one with the Wildcat on, a Wildcat shirt, I understand that there was a Kentucky Wildcat that was drafted this evening. Who was it? Kevin Knox. Number 9. Okay, Nina. Nina, number 9. Number 9, Nina. Congratulations to the Big Blue Nation on the drafting of this young man. Any U of L Cardinals drafted? No. And he laughs. He chuckles and says, no, there were no Cardinals drafted. Well, maybe next year. But we've got an exciting show tonight. We're going to jump right into this because we got a few minutes tardy start. Following up on what we started last week, which is we're going to start off with the latest news here on Conscious Fever and 97thebeatfm.com. And then we're going to talk about the butthole of the week. Everybody's wondering as to who that is. Right, DJ Ice?
Yeah.
Everybody's wondering.
I'm wondering too.
Yeah, who that might be.
So
this
is it
week.
just somebody local or
the last
national?
Well, it's been somebody national. It's probably going to be somebody national again this week. Unfortunately, there's a lot of buttholes in Washington D.C., so we can pretty much pick and choose who we want.
Just tell them stand in line.
And just stand in line. Who wants the next pick this week? So in any case, but here on Conscious Fever, again, I want to say thank you for everybody who tuned in tonight. It is indeed a warm night, but actually it's a little bit cooler tonight, DJ Ice, than it was.
Yes, it's
last
80
time.
degrees. It's been like 95, 100 all week. It
Yeah.
rained a little bit, and today is the first day of spring.
First day of
summer.
Yeah,
But
we don't
it's
want
the
the spring to
longest-
come back because spring
we
came
didn't get
in
a
with a
spring.
bang of winter.
We didn't even get a spring yet.
Right.
But it's the longest day of the year.
Right, but we got spring showers on Derby Day. It rained cats and dogs on Derby Day. That's right, you were out of town.
Yeah, I was living good.
Yeah, and I was I stayed home, partied all Derby week, and then stayed home. So again, I want to thank you guys for joining me here in the studio, and again, those for you who are joining us out there online. So I'm going to jump right into this. We've got our topic tonight is separating migrant parents from their children. That's what we're going to talk about tonight, and then at the end of the show, we're going to probably have a small segue into our show next week, which is really going to be a little bit more than entertaining. The show next week is actually going to be, I think it's going to be a little controversial. Some of you all may remember that there was a gentleman that called in many, many shows ago, and he caused quite a stir with some of his comments and some of his views, but he's going to be here next week, and he is assuring us that he is going to be controversial. He wants to talk about melanin. He wants to talk about white privilege, and we're going to just give him the audience to do that. We're going to make you guys his audience and allow him to do it. Maybe he'll learn something. Maybe you guys will learn something. I don't know, but that's next week. But for this week, DJ Ice, I'm sure we have some artists that we're going to be hearing tonight in terms of the musical talent.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want, speaking of talent, I want to remind you all about lovely Mimi, who's coming to town on July the 7th to be a part of, she's going to be live, to be a part of Big Mike's Comedy Blast at the Hilton Garden Inn at the Hilton Garden Inn Airport here in Louisville, with special guests of Daryl Dam, M. Brown, and Chris Crowder. A lot of those, I think, a lot of those are probably from Love and Hip Hop on VH1. Something I don't watch. I don't intend to influence you guys not to watch it. If you want to watch it, you can. But let's get right into this our topics tonight before we get into our main topic. The main topic is separating the migrant parents from their children, and I just want to hear your views tonight about that. We've got a live feed for you if you want to call in 502-384-6483 to join us and talk about that. I was actually shocked to learn when I started reading some of the comments online, like about hundreds of thousands of comments, and they were going both ways. Some were saying that the children should be separated, and some were saying that the children shouldn't be separated. Some were saying it was wrong. Some were saying it was the right thing to do. Some were saying that the migrant parents that were trying to cross the border were just simply bad parents. Some were saying that they were just parents simply trying to flee a country where if they did not flee, they were going to get killed. So it was interesting reading on that topic, but it's been very hot all week, actually for the last 2 weeks. And for those of you who don't know the background, basically Donald Trump, the president of the United States, or the Russian president in the White House, as I like to call him, has been adamant about his immigration policies, and he's not getting his way from Congress. So he's not getting the wall. He's not doing all that. So he has beefed up him and the Department of Justice with his ELF Attorney General. Remember the show we had about the ELF?
Yeah, the ELF.
Yeah, that was a good show.
It was.
Jeff Sessions. But basically they have beefed up what's going on the border. And so when the immigrants attempt to enter this country, then what is taking place is that the first thing they're doing is they're separating the parents and the children. They're taking the parents to the adult detention, and they're taking the children to these various centers that they're keeping secret. And so it's been really controversial about whether that's morally good or morally bad to do. But we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about that as it relates to its relationship to the days of slavery. It's going to be some interesting discussion. So let's jump right into the latest news. The latest news comes out of the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has, many of you all that don't follow the legal arena are not aware that what happens at the United States Supreme Court, they have terms. And this is considered to be, I think, the spring term or the June term, and then they have an October term. That's a damn shame. They make all that money, and then they just work just part of the year. Must be nice, right, DJ Ice?
Yeah, I wish I can work a half day.
Yeah, it's kind of like a half a year. I don't even think it's a half a year. But they make, upwards, and they get all these privileges, and they get to be secretive, and they get all these government benefits and a great big pension. And
Bet you they don't get half of the pay, do they?
What do you mean half of? No. They get all the pay.
Yeah.
They get all the pay. They get good health insurance and all of that, and I know a lot of perks. But in any case, twice a year, they actually issue rulings. And they started issuing rulings in these last few days. And so the media's watching with a watchful eye, a very, very careful eye, because there's a number of significant cases that are pending in the courts. And one of those cases was decided today in reference to internet shopping. Now, those of you who shop on the internet, you need to be aware of what the Supreme Court ruled today. One of the things that they ruled today was they handed down a ruling that probably helps brick and mortar. Now, for those of you who don't know what brick and mortar is basically the mom and pop shop or the mall store. That's brick and mortar. You guys understand that. I've got two teenagers here in the studio. It's 17-year-olds. You all understand the difference between brick and mortar and the internet? No? Okay, well, brick and mortar is just the Macy's out at the mall. That's brick and mortar because it's in order to shop there, you have to go inside brick and mortar to do your shopping. Whereas internet shopping is the exact opposite. There are no walls, right? You can just go and tap on the internet and decide what you want. You can shop from Walmart, you can shop eBay and Amazon. So what the Supreme Court did today, well, first let me just give you the background. The brick and mortar has always been complaining that because they sit in a particular state, brick and mortar, i.e. a concrete structure that's sitting in a particular state and selling their goods, they are subject to state sales tax. Well, the internet shopping and the internet companies that were selling across state lines and in the state, they may be in South Dakota, for instance, but they're selling goods in Kentucky or in New Jersey, they were not subject to state sales tax. But the Supreme Court ruled today that they are now internet shopping is now subject to state sales tax. And for the big companies, this is not going to make a big difference. Amazon, because they have local factories, if you will, or local facilities in these various jurisdictions. So they negotiate with the governments over the taxes and all of that. But for the small internet shopper, I'm sorry, not shopper, but for the small internet retailer, for those who make a living selling on eBay, for instance, DJ Ice, now they're going to have to charge you and me a sales tax when we purchase their item. At least it is there are some legal experts that believe that it's getting to that point. So for all of you who just don't go out and do your Christmas shopping or do your birthday shopping anymore, you just go online. This is going to impact you because now you're going to have to pay sales tax that you were probably never subject to before. Now, sometimes some companies did subject you to it before, but now you're definitely going to be subject to it. And for instance, I just brought an item online, and it was delivered to my office, but it came from Walmart, and because it came from Walmart, it's subject to the sales tax. But let's say it came from somebody on eBay, I would have just bought it straight out without the sales tax. But now that would be, had I waited 10 days later to do that, that would have been subject to the state sales tax, either in the state where it's coming from or the state, and definitely the states where it's coming into. So that was a big ruling. It's going to have an impact on Amazon, maybe Amazon, but definitely on eBay, because there's a lot of small retailers on eBay that are doing their thing. But the Supreme Court has about 3 to 4 days left in the term, and in the course of this term, there's some other significant rulings that they have to make, and so we're going to be looking out for that. So that's the latest news. Now, before we go to our first break, let's talk about the butthole of the week. That portion of we have instituted that in this show, and I'm sure all of y'all out there want to know who the butthole of the week is. Well, give me a drum roll. And as last week, we have 2 buttholes of the week. Okay, you all want to know the first one? The first one is obvious because it's tied to our topic today, and that is no more than Kirstjen Nielsen. She is the Homeland Security Secretary under the Trump administration. And the reason she has obtained the honor of Butthole of the Week this week because she made it a point to try to justify the separation of the parents and the children. And DJ Ice, one of the things that she said that was just alarming, she said, well, if an American went to jail, their child doesn't go with them, their child will be at home. And so the separation happens every day. So, that was a very interesting analogy.
Unbelievable.
But only a butthole would say something like that. So, Secretary Nielsen, you get the title of the butthole of the week, and I hope you're going to enjoy that this week. We are going to send you a plaque with just... because you're female, it won't have hair on it, but it will be a butthole because you're the butthole of the week. Okay? So it won't be masculine, but it will be a feminine butthole of the week. Okay, so just so you. But the other butthole of the week goes to the sergeant who shot a black woman accused of shoplifting in the Deptford Township in South Jersey last weekend. Apparently, 3 individuals were shopping, and the police were called. And when the police got there, they approached one male, and the other 2 jumped in the car and tried to get away. And I think there was an officer that was struck, and I think there was another officer that was almost about to be struck, and so the sergeant just opened fire. But I think the reason this sergeant is the butthole of the week because it seems to be a trend that police officers don't find a way to use the least restrictive means, which is to death, when going after suspects. And unfortunately, a lot of them that are fatally wounded just happen to be African Americans. So this time it was a black woman. So, again, I know my police officer friends and a lot of my other friends are probably going to say, well, she got what she deserved because she was almost, she was trying to run over a police officer and she was trying to get away, but it was shoplifting. It was a misdemeanor. And, but I guess when you really think about it, maybe there's some justification, maybe there's no justification. In any case, but he is our separate butthole of the week. So we're going to take our first break, and on the other side of this break, when we come back, we're going to talk about separating the children at the border. And we want to hear your comments. If you want to call in, you're free to at 502-384-6483. That's like you can reach us here on Conscious Fever, here on 97thebeatfm.com. So we'll be right back right after this break.
Louisville, Kentucky, and surrounding areas. Sunday, June 24th. Mark your calendars. As DJ Taz, DJ Ice, and DJ Kano presents A Day at the Park at Cox Park. That's right, Cox Park, 3730 River Road, Louisville, Kentucky, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. This will be a family-friendly, good vibes only event. Bring the lounge chairs and the family and come have a good time with good people and enjoying good music with special guest DJs. Playing old school, new school, jazz, and R&B. There will also be food and games. This is their way of giving back. So come on down and have a day at the park with DJ Taz, DJ Ice, and DJ Kano. That's right, Sunday, June 24th from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Cox Park. This event is sponsored by 97thebeatfm.com, Ice Entertainment, Icon Brand, The Allegiance DJs, Party Masters of Louisville, and Willie White. See you there.
You can't handle the truth.
You have a story to tell, and your story could be intimate and personal or something you want the entire world to see, because a tattoo is the most unique and personal form of individual expression. And body art is a master's craft. So when you decide to let somebody draw on your canvas, you need to seek out the truth. Truth's Tattoos have been creating world-class body art for over 10 years, and there's nothing the Truth can't handle. Check out Truth's Tattoos on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll see there's other tattoo artists, and there's the truth. Stop being lied to and book your next tattoo appointment with the Truth at 502-408-8403.
Welcome back to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price on 97thebeatfm.com.
All right, welcome back here to Conscious Fever here on 97thebeatfm.com. Can you hear me, DJ Ice? Maybe my mic. I can't hear my mic. Okay, there we go. So welcome back to Conscious Fever here on 97thebeatfm.com. I'm Carl Price, your host, and we're talking about the separating the children at the border. That's our topic tonight. We want to know your thoughts on that. Because I found that the discussion on the internet was extremely well divided on this topic. Should these mothers be separated from their children who are attempting to come into America, possibly fleeing the possibility of death in their country? We don't know. But anyway, we have our first caller, 97thebeatfm.com and Conscious Fever.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm good.
That's good. Well, you have called in the Conscious Fever. You know, our topic tonight is separating the children at the border. I'm assuming you're familiar with the topic.
Of course. Yes, I am.
So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on separating a mother and her child? You know, Paul Simon had this song that and he called it Mother and Child. You know, I don't know if you know the lyrics. It was a mother and child reunion is only a motion away. So I you know, it seems to be taboo to actually separate a mother from her child, but that's happening on the southwest border here in the United States. How would you feel if you were separated from your mom just at the border, have no idea where your mom is, no idea where your father is, no idea where you're going to be the next 30 days or 40 days? How would that make you feel, caller?
Well, I would be very upset, as I assume anybody would, being separated from their mother. But some of these people, they're not just coming to the United States just to, you know, they're usually coming to make a new life, or because their home country is so bad, they're about to die, or something's about to happen. They're really poor, so they come and try to have a better life. But I still don't think it's okay for them to be separated from their separating mothers and children.
Well, let me play the devil's advocate with you. Let me just play the devil's advocate with you. What if there was no other alternative? What if there was no other alternative? For instance, you know, the Homeland Security Secretary says that, you know, it's no big deal because mothers and fathers are separated from their children every day when they're arrested, and all they're doing at the border is arresting these people or detaining these people. So what's the difference between that and an American being arrested and their children? You know, for instance, if their children in the car when they get arrested, then their children go to the home of the innocents or something like that. So what's the difference between those two?
I mean, I don't think there is a difference, but I saw somewhere that they can only hold the children for 20 days, something like that. So after the mother or the parents are arrested, then they're being held. Then after the 20 days, they get moved somewhere else. That's what I heard.
Right, but here's the thing, caller. There's some indication that there is really no record keeping of who's connected to who. So, in other words, they're just separating the children. So, I'm not sure if they know what to do with the children. I guess they're going to pile them all up in a dump truck and then take them back across the border and just dump them off. That wouldn't be fair, would it?
Of course not. I think that's what Trump wants to do.
Yeah, I think that's what he wants to do. Well, that's interesting. Well, thank you for calling in, caller. I mean, do you have any other comments? Any other comments on this topic of separating the children at the border? I mean, we called it separating the children at the border, but we know there's a little bit more going on to that because you know there are some people in Washington who believe that that there is some credibility, if you will, or some substance to actually supporting this idea that we have to control the migrant population coming into this country. I think some in Washington have said, you know, that they're coming to be a part of the M13 gang. You're familiar with the M13 gang, right? That's a Colombian gang or a South American gang that comes and they have no sympathy for human life at all. They just kill at will. Are you familiar with M13? The M13 gang?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So how do you feel about the administration taking the position that they're actually in this big net of catching all of these people? They're actually catching people who are potentially that would be a part of the M13 gang. So it justifies separating the mother and the children. What's your thoughts on that?
I still don't think it's justified. I think everyone should. I mean, when the mother gets taken to jail for trying to enter the country, there should be a process where they can apply. You know, they have some time to try to get into the country, like every other immigrant. But the refugees, they kind of I feel like they try to come illegally because they know it'll take years for them to get in anyway. But I don't agree with it. I think mothers and children should stay together.
So you think they're taking the easy way out just by trying to come into the country illegally? Because if they came legally, then they probably wouldn't qualify to be in something of that sort. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And see, I'm also on what he's on, the caller. I feel like if it has to be something. If those people are willing to risk their lives knowing that if they get caught, it has to be bad. They have to be in a bad situation. So I think the governments need to somehow find a solution.
Right, but when you look at the governments that they're coming from, for instance, Honduras and Guatemala, I can't think of the country that a lot of them are coming from because I know when I was in Florida for spring break, we had a number of Uber drivers, and they were all from this same country, and apparently there's chaos down in that country. And,
yeah, even in Cuba.
No
a
food.
lot of them in Cuba. It's
yeah.
like Fidel Castro, he was, just so bad. They was swimming across, the ocean and all that stuff. So it has to be.
So you think there has to be a filter?
It has to be terrible. It has to be just to where they're just like, I take the risk. And they say only 1 out of 10 actually get across the border undetected.
Interesting.
So if it's 10 of us and I'm not the one, I mean, I'm willing to
take a chance.
Yeah. And then I know I'm going back.
So you're saying that.
So they not even, it's just, I guess I need a better understanding of it too, because
right. So it sounds like what you're saying is that the circumstances are so bad that they're willing to take the risk, even if the risk is death.
Yeah.
Because death is waiting for them back in their home country, pretty much, right?
Yeah. So they're running from it and hoping to get saved, because if not, they know, well, okay, I know I just go back here. And try again when the heat goes off or whatever. When they're not looking.
Right.
It's just it has to be that bad, and that's just sad, man.
So because it's that bad, do you think that justifies the United States relaxing its rules to let them in?
Well, we claim we the home of the free. So if they get free, we the land of the free. This is the land. That's why all of them trying to come here.
Right. So there is a filter system that the United States government has, and part of that filtering system is that they're entitled to a hearing, they're entitled to bond, and some of them actually get released on bond. And there's some discussion and argument that some of them don't come back, when they're released on bond and different things. But the Trump administration has cut out all of that. So, and I think he calls it catch and release. He said, "There's no more catch and release. We catch you, we're not going to release you." What's your thoughts on that? There's no opportunity for a bond, so you get caught, then you may have to go somewhere, be housed somewhere for about 2 years because the immigration court is so backed up. Yeah.
So like jail.
For about 2 years, yeah. Detained for almost about 2 years before you can see a magistrate, before there can be a determination as to whether you're even entitled to bond. Well, that's how bad it is.
It'll be a lot of it. It's going to be more of them coming then, because their situation is so bad. They rather get taken care of, locked up, than to get killed back in their own country.
Yeah, somebody said the other day where at least I read something online that said that at least they're getting a free meal and
a free meal, a free place to stay.
Well, they're staying
and they
in
protected. And they're getting protected from if they had went back to their country. No telling if they had made it those 2 years.
Well, they're sleeping. Part of their cover was, their blankets were actually aluminum. It looked as if it was aluminum foil, and they were kept in cages.
Yeah, I saw the cage thing. Yeah, that's.
And the children were crying and saying, "I want my mommy, I want my pop, I want my daddy." It was in Spanish, Spanish speaking.
One of those made the Time magazine front page.
Yeah.
Trump looking down on the little kid that was looking up, kind of like crying. Yeah.
Interesting, though. Carl, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the fact that Melania Trump visited the site today? the First Lady of the United States. Well, the First Lady of another country, but we have to call her First Lady of the United States because she's married to the Russian president in the White House. So what do you think about that? Do you think that was a sincere trip? Do you think she really cares about these children by going down there? Now, before you answer, let me just tell you her jacket said, her jacket had a comment on it. I can't remember what the comment was. It had something to the effect that this is who I am, and I don't care if you like it or something like that. But what do you? I mean, do you think she was sincere about going down to the border?
I think she was. I mean, she
didn't take you there and back to the White House with her to have a meal and a glass of wine.
That's true. I mean,
don't you think she
could
should
knock
have?
her.
Yeah.
Maybe she was just trying to keep up appearances, but if she does care, that's great. At least she's making an effort.
Yeah, interesting thought. Well, we're going to come back to this subject, and we're going to make the. I'm not sure if we're going to talk that much about Melania, because the guys I have lunch with during the day, the lawyers I have lunch with during the day, they have a lot of other topics that they talk about with Melania. So, and even though we can say whatever we want on Conscious Fever and 97thebeatfm.com, I'm not going to talk about what we talk about at lunch when we talk about Melania Trump.
You may need to be mic'd up.
I may
not let them know that you recorded.
Absolutely. That would be nice if I was mic'd up for lunch.
Because I know they goes in, man.
Well, caller, thank you so much for calling in to Conscious Fever here on 97thebeatfm.com. We're up to our second break, and we're going to take another quick break with some music from DJ Ice here on 97thebeatfm.com. This is Conscious Fever. I'm your host, Carl Price. We'll be right back.
Louisville, Kentucky, and surrounding areas. Sunday, June 24th. Mark your calendars as DJ Taz, DJ Ice, and DJ Kano presents A Day at the Park at Cox Park. That's right, Cox Park, 3730 River Road, Louisville, Kentucky, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. This will be a family-friendly, good vibes-only event. Bring the lounge chairs and the family and come have a good time with good people and enjoying good music with special guest DJs. Playing old school, new school, jazz, and R&B. There will also be food and games. This is their way of giving back. So come on out and have a day at the park with DJ Taz, DJ Ice, and DJ Kano. That's right, Sunday, June 24th from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Cox Park. This event is sponsored by 97thebeatfm.com, Ice Entertainment, Icon Brand, The Allegiance DJs, Party Masters of Louisville, and Willie White. See you there.
You can't handle the truth.
You have a story to tell, and your story could be intimate and personal or something you want the entire world to see, because a tattoo is the most unique and personal form of individual expression. And body art is a master's craft. So when you decide to let somebody draw on your canvas, you need to seek out the truth. Truth Tattoos have been creating world-class body art for over 10 years, and there's nothing the truth can't handle. Check out Truth Tattoos on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll see there's other tattoo artists, and there's the truth. Stop being lied to and book your next tattoo appointment with the truth at 502-408-8403.
are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price on 97thebeatfm.com.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Conscious Fever here on 97thebeatfm.com. I'm Carl Price, your host of Conscious Fever here. We're talking about separating migrant parents from their children. That's our topic tonight. You're welcome to join us in the conversation, 502-384-6483. Would love to know your views on this topic at all. Before we take another call, a couple of things. You just heard Tina P from ATL. Is that right?
Yeah. That's
what was the name of this song?
Wob.
That was a nice song. I like that.
WOBB. Wob.
WOBB.
Yeah, that's her latest one that she got out.
Latest
that
from
she's
Tina
pushing.
P.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot of touring with Sir Charles, the blues, Southern Soul and Blues Circuit. Sir Charles, Pokey Bear.
Okay.
Yeah, she's doing some good stuff, man. They actually wanted me to come in last week and DJ her show that she just had last week in Atlanta, but I was booked.
Oh wow, that would have. Well, she sounds good.
Yeah,
she sounds good. And this weekend, DJ Ice, June 24th at Cox's Park.
Yeah, per the weather permits, we're gonna have a day at the park. DJ Ice, DJ Taz, and DJ Kano is just our way of giving back. We just gonna have just come out, listen to some music. We're going to feed some people, if they come out. So make sure you come 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., Cox Park. We ain't going to feed the city. We tell y'all now, we ain't feeding the city. So don't come expecting. Yeah, don't come expecting thinking that everybody going to get fed.
Right.
So about the first 100 or 200 people probably.
Y'all hear that? June 24th at Cox's Park. Right off River Road here in Louisville, Kentucky. 3 of the world's finest DJs are going to be performing. I know it's DJ Taz, DJ Ice, and DJ
Kano.
And DJ Kano, Kano. Yeah, it should be a wonderful time. And it starts it's from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday.
Yes. Long as the weather permit. They can also just check on the 97 page, Facebook page, or the Ice Entertainment Facebook page, and we'll keep you up to date. But we Vikings, we soldiers, so we're gonna try to weather the storm.
Absolutely.
But if it's just, if it rains, it's supposed to rain. But if it rains, unbearable, then we're gonna have to postpone. But
yeah, we're gonna have to postpone if it rains unbearable. But little, I used to read a book in high school say water never hurt a man.
Yeah, but it hurt equipment.
It does hurt
electronics.
I guess it does. I guess it does. And also next week on our show, y'all don't want to miss this show because I think a lot of people tune in to Conscious Fever to hear this type of discussion that we're going to have next week. Now, it may be controversial to some of you guys, but we're going to have a guest on, and on the show, he's going to talk about health. He wants to talk about melanin. He wants to talk about the melanated diet from a unique and different perspective. So you guys need to join in on next week. Tune in next week on the June 28th, 9 p.m. here on 97thebeatfm.com, The Conscious Fever. The man I'm going to have is a little controversial, DJ Ice. He's a little controversial.
That calls in
that's the one that calls in, and he talks about white privilege, and he talks about all this stuff. So I
think it's going to be interesting.
I think it's going to be interesting too. I anticipate that he's probably going to piss a lot of people off, but he's gonna talk the
just
talk.
His side of the
right.
coin.
It's
everybody got their side.
Everybody has their side, so it should be really interesting. So separating the children at the border, I'm going to share something with you all as we talk about separating the children from the border. That was something that used to be done back in the slavery days as a deterrent to slaves misbehaving. So we've got another caller before we get into that discussion. Caller, you're on the air here on 97thebeatfm.com, Conscious Fever. You're calling in to talk about our topic, separating the children at the border. Caller, are you there?
Yes, hello?
Yes. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm okay. Well, you sound like a sir, so I'm just going to call you a sir. Hopefully you're a sir. Are you a sir?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Speak up, man. Speak up.
Yeah,
in the
speak up.
closet or something, man? You hiding? Are you hiding from someone or something? Are you snake on the phone?
No.
Okay, yeah, that's better. That's better.
Well, tell us. So, what are your thoughts about separating the children at the border?
I think it's unfair. I feel like no child should be separated from their parents.
Yeah, no child should be separated from their parents. Now, according to the Secretary of Homeland Security, children are separated from their parents every day. In fact, in family court, in dependency court, neglect, dependency, and abuse court, they separate children from their parents every day. So what's the difference with separating them at the border if they're doing something that may put the children at risk by traveling with them to try to come into the country illegally?
Well, I feel like them separating everything as court is a lot different from them separating at the border. If you're getting separated in court, that means they obviously did something wrong, or they did something where they should be in jail. But if they're separating them at the border, that's from their parents not being able to come here. So it's not fair that the kids should have to be separated just because they want a better life and they want the opportunity to try to have a better one.
So what do you do with the kids? I mean, what's the alternative? What do you do with the kids? If the parents, let's assume, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but let's assume that the parents are doing something illegal by trying to come into the United States the wrong way, and most will say that is illegal. What do you do with the children? In other words, if you have a mother and a child, and the mother is caught shoplifting, and the child, let's say the child is 8 or 9 years old, that child goes to the home of the innocents if nobody else can be located to come and get and care for that child. The police will take them to the home of the innocents here locally, and the mom will go into custody. So what do we do? I mean, I guess my question is, why should we have sympathy because there are children involved?
Because children really doesn't know better. They're trying to follow into their parents' footsteps and trying to let them lead them by example. So the children really doesn't know any better. I think that the children should either go back with other relatives in their family rather than be put in containments to where they can't even see their other relatives anymore. I don't think that's right for them or fair for them.
But something has to happen to the children. You do agree with that, right?
Yes, I do.
So, I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, the children are getting 3 meals a day. Some of them are in cages, but they're getting 3 meals a day. But so, and some say, caller, just so you know, some say that that's a better life than they had before they crossed the border.
This may be true, but I feel like it's not because, you're still not with your family. Who wants to be separated just because they're getting food and stuff?
So do you think that there is some emotional damage that's done to these children that will last a lifetime just by that mere separation of a mother and a child?
Yes.
And so you think that alone is enough just to simply not to do it. So what do you do with the children? Do you take the children into detention with the parents?
No, I think the children should either go back to the family that they had in the other country. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you call their auntie up and say, hey, we got your niece at the border. Come and get them. But the auntie's back in that same country that was violating their human rights. So I'm not sure if that's really a wise choice. But it's an interesting thought. I think that there are a lot of opinions on this topic, and I'm not sure if any individual one is the proper one, because there are the child advocates who believe that that emotional damage is a lifelong injury to the child that can never be repaired. A 5 or 6 year old just screaming, I want my mommy, I want my daddy, where's my mommy, where's my daddy? And the thought that you would never see that person again, I can only imagine what the child is going through. But it's interesting to see, what's right and what's wrong. But you think that under no circumstances should that detachment take place?
Yeah, I don't think the child should be separated from their mother or father.
Do you think the Trump administration is applying principles that slave masters applied, let's say, 175 years ago, when they would basically separate the adult slaves from the infant, not really infant, but from the child slaves, particularly when there was some misbehaving? Do you see any similarities here at all?
Yeah, there's similarities to it. It's basically just the same thing, except just they're not going with racism.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you have an opinion as to why there is such a concentration on the southwest border as opposed to the Canadian border, the northern border? And the reason I say that is because at the Canadian border, the people are a lot more lighter than the ones that are a lot more darker coming from the southern border. So do you think that what's going on the southern border should be going on the Canadian border, or is it an issue, or is it a situation where the issue is not the same?
I feel like the issue is not the same because when you're looking at the borders, they both signify race. So I don't think that that's fair.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people probably in Detroit that would prefer to be in Montreal than or Quebec than in Detroit. So there's more like Americans trying to cross over to Canada than Canadians crossing over. Well, that's interesting thought. Interesting thought. Well, caller, thank you for calling in as we begin the. Thank you for calling in, and thanks for tuning in to Conscious Fever here on 97thebetfm.com. But separating the children at the border, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, is it taboo? Is it just insane? Is it morally insane? What do you take from the First Lady visiting the southwest border of Texas today, where this is all going on? And was that a sincere trip that she took? Or is she just trying to pad some emotion for the country and for some sympathy for the Trump administration? Should be interesting. Well, we have another caller. 97thebetfm.com, Conscious Fever, you're on the air. Thanks for joining us.
Mr. Price, how you doing? John Brown.
Hey, John Brown, how you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Your thoughts on this topic tonight? Thanks for calling in, by the way. And I should say that you are coincidentally, I was just plugging the next week's show that you've been invited to come and join us on.
And I was wondering what his opinion was, but I said I was just gonna wait till next week.
That you gonna wait until next week?
Yeah,
well, we got
it
live in the flesh.
I didn't want to put him on the spot. I didn't want to see if he was on there, but he's on there. Evidently he's on because he's calling.
Absolutely. So what's your take on this, Mr. Brown?
Well, there's actually two issues here. One is I want to explain that we are on stolen land, and that we got to look at and understand the demonic decisions coming from a certain group of people in this country that has a total history of being demonic. Doing that to children, and what they're doing to children is nothing compared to what they did to the children during slavery.
No,
we're talking about. I mean, and let me explain this to the world. You got to understand the emotional feelings here. You had women whom, when they had a child, they didn't want to see the child because they knew they would become emotionally attached to it. You talk about the trauma that slavery has done to African Americans here. And this actually have created our whole decisions of why we are the way we are today. When you look at even how we perform in sexual activities in our culture. I'll give you an example. The way we look at our women, African Americans, we see our women through the lens of the Europeans. Why is that? Because we see beauty in the buttocks and the breasts. This was not the way we looked at our women, right? So where did this come from? This hyper sexual habit came from their behavior. So when you look at what they have done to these children, I'm not surprised. The point is that how soon we forget what they did to us. And that's what's interesting, because history repeats itself. Whether it repeats itself to the same group or not, we know that it's tied behind racism. We know that. We know they ain't doing the people that's coming across the border in Canada, from Canada. We understand that. So this is where it's connected to what I explained once before about racism, how it's tied to a mental illness. To see a person based on the color of their skin and diminish them less than a human being, right? You're talking about the people that don't even care about the decisions of what they did to the children or how the children are going to get through this, right? So actually, in a sense, why would we be surprised more so than to be angry over it?
Interesting. That's an interesting thought. So you do equate this behavior that we're seeing at the southwest border in Texas to the behavior that, or the practices that that took place back 175, 180 years ago in this country.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that this is two different cases here. You're talking about a situation where, they're coming over here, and they're coming over here for freedom, like I said. This is stolen land. Who has the right to this country? Who made that decision to want to do that to anyone in this country? And we're talking about the people who are running this country today, the same Europeans who brought us over here in slavery, right? I'm speaking about this demonic act. What they're doing to these children is far less than what they did to Africans. So I'm not surprised is what I'm saying, because we're talking about an inhumane individuals. If you can take the mentality of an individual that can take a child from them, the person that can do that and not even consider the feelings of the child, that's inhumane. So this DNA that these people carry is nothing less than inhuman. Nothing less. So I'm not surprised. I think at one point, when do we begin to understand this power that these people have over us? And when do we collectively make some type of action against that? We cannot act like we're being treated fairly here. I mean, I once remember saying that if one thinks that you are not oppressed, I don't care how much money you have, I don't care how much status you have, I don't care how much education you claim to have. If you claim that there's no oppression, then you are comfortable with oppression, because there's no doubt we have oppression here in this country.
Interesting.
And so, one of the main issue is, and I hope I get to talk about this soon, is the mentality of the narrative of how we see things. Right? Because we got to look at how we are looking at the situation and where we're looking at it from, and what lens are we using to look at it through. See, so when you hear this information, you would think that the first thing I would want to, or the first thing you would think you would hear, is how it's connected to an individual mindset, that this is done to us. Why wouldn't we look at that issue and say, wow, this is what they did to us? This is how they separated us from birth, and to sell the child into slavery. Now, they're not doing that to these kids. Mind you, I said, this is far less than what they did to us. Far less. But we soon forget this history of ours. We, African Americans, we soon forget this history. These people would rather save a dog, a stray dog, than to save a human being. And we understand that, right? So how soon do we forget of what these people are really like? So we can understand. If we don't understand this, we would never have no unity, nor will we ever be able to come from this mess. They will continue to keep us downtrodden. They will continue to keep us at odds, and at odds at each other, why they continue to do what they're doing. Why? Because there's a narrative out here that black people assume that we are against each other. Black people assume that we don't like our black women. Black people assume it based upon the narratives that are put out there on us, right? We're talking about television, movies, music, the narrative that explains blacks as being low, unworthy. Once you put that narrative out there, everybody grabs the narrative. Why do you think it's so easy for even foreigners to mistreat us? You know, they come over here, they see what the narrative is, then they mistreat us too, right? And they are people of color. But why is the narrative against African Americans? Why is the narrative that is always attacking us as a people? Why is that? So when you look at regentrification, when you look at denying people jobs, denying redlining people, all this is done to one group of people. One group. It ain't done to the Chinese. It's not done, it's not done to the Asians. It's not done to the Arabs. It's always something, targeted African Americans, and they keep us at odds at each other by this constantly beating us down.
Interesting. Very interesting thought. Very interesting thought. So we can't wait to have you on next week to continue this conversation, Mr. Brown.
Yes. So what is it, without giving away everything that you're going to talk about next week, so what is it that, I guess, what will be a start for our people to at least get their attention?
Well, one of the things that I try to focus on when I started studying, I got into studies about the brain and the brain function, and I have some great information on basically why we continue to be in this condition, in our individual life, let alone collectively. I want to talk about the individual life of why we continue this cycle going around, and our lives are not getting better and better. What is it that's missing in our brains of why we don't see this picture of who we are as individuals and how great we are? There's something missing. If there's a thing called laws of attraction that we can actually bring our lives the way we want to bring it, then apparently most of us either don't know how it works or don't even know it exists. And so I want to kind of bring it to the picture, for one, to get us to understand that our melanin, how we function, the difference in our melanin, and how to have a melanated diet in order to improve our melanin to its best function, and what it means according to our bodies. How our bodies function on melanin. A lot of people think melanin is just dealing with the color of your skin. No, it's not. It is far deeper than that. And I want to discuss the 4 different types of melanin. So I think for the most part, I like this. I don't too much like focusing on white people and their illness. I would rather more focusing on our greatness. Because if we understand our greatness, it actually turns around everything that we were told about ourselves, right? So it's like reverse. Once we understand that we are genetically superior over all other races, we have to understand that secret power that we have in ourselves. And I think that's the greatest tool for us as a people that we can survive. This condition ain't nothing compared to if we were aware of who we are. And that's what's missing. We're not aware of who we are. And there's reasons for that. There's reasons for it dealing with the free radicals that we take in all the time from the air, the pollution, and the water, what it does to our brain, the water that we're drinking and the fluoride that we're drinking, why we're putting fluoride in our toothpaste, why we're drinking fluoride, why are they giving us fluoride in the drinking water and give us a narrative that tells us it's good for our teeth. No, it's not. And so what does fluoride do to us? Well, it keeps our mind docile. It's the same chemical that they used to the Jews in Nazi camps. They fed them fluoride water. Why? Because fluoride water will make you docile in your think and to respond to your adversary. In fact, you will end up turning against each other. This is what was happening in the German camp. If you study about the Jews in the camps, this is what they did. It made them less responsive to respond to an emergency and how to respond to from their adversary. This is what fluoride does. It is a neurochemical, a neurotoxin in the brain when you drink it. So I think I want to focus on what we can do to realize our greatness of how great we are and how the brain works. I want to talk about this thing called psychoneuroimmunology and how this function in the brain is what actually physically creates our reality. This is actually a science, right? We fail to understand these things because we were never taught the power of our brain and that we can generate our cells over and over again just by basically understanding that function of consciousness and eating the right food and being in the right environment. When we're so busy focusing on the negative, the racism, what white people are doing, we're constantly calling the universe to give us more. The more we call it out, the more we discuss it, we're calling the universe to give us more of it, and guess what? That's what happens. This is why we continue to be in the same cycle of life, going around in the same way. We're not moving forward. We're not getting ahead. It's because there's something nervous that's in our brain that tells us that we can't do it, or that if I talk about health, there's something in your brain that says, no, that's not true, or no, I don't want to stop eating that, or no, I don't want to stop smoking that, right? Because of the narrative. And we have to focus on that. We have to look at these things and how to refocus our thoughts and how to be able to move forward in life. And I think this is one of the main reasons why they keep us at odds, by keeping us always focusing on the negative, religion or racism or something that's always out there. And every time we put our attention to that, we really take our brains away. Let me say this. It's very interesting about narratives. And I say this because in my company I started studying marketing. And when I studied marketing, it dealt with the brain cells and how, and Carl, you are aware of this, how you can use billboards and signs to put up in different places, and the person see it, they put it in their head, they'll never forget it, even though if they did forget it, in the front lobe of their brain, the subconscious remembers numbers, colors, and all of that, right? These are things that are uploaded into our brains from television, the music, and how they change the narrative of what we're listening to and watching. Back in the early 50s, they would have cartoons where the Disney cartoon, Walt Disney was a pedophilia, so let's get that out. And he would have, in the cartoon, you can Google this, they would have sexual images in the background of the cartoon, but if you watch the cartoon lyrics itself had nothing to do with sex. But in the background, you will see a penis, you will see a breast, you will see a vagina. You will see these things in the background hidden in images and flowers and stuff like that. Well, what was this doing? This was putting a narrative, generating, uploading information into a child's brain unknowingly. It's called putting something in their brain unconsciously. You know, where in the subconscious picks this information up, and you are behaving, and you don't even know why you're behaving that way, because this information has been uploaded into your brain. I think one of the best things that we can do is turn that television off, right, and start learning how to control our diets for what we are watching on television, what we're listening to in our music that's causing all these messed up narratives. And I think that's one of the main issues we have to focus on. How do we retrain our brains to think differently? Number one, of ourselves. How do we raise our vibration of who we are through what we call ourselves in our own individual names? The higher you claim who you are, the higher your vibration. The higher your vibration, the better your life ends up bringing about whatever it is you want in your life. And whatever it is you want, under whatever condition, you can get that. And Carl knows that I can talk about the issues of where I have learned how to do that and where I came from and how I got to where I am now. It's based on understanding how my brain functions. And I can prove it, right?
Right.
So the point is, I think that for the most part, we don't understand our true selves. We don't understand who we are and how powerful we are. And they don't want us to know that. But listen, they know. But they don't want us to know how powerful we are.
Well, you're gonna talk to us about that next week. I've got my producers waving their hands and telling me that it's time to go. So okay. I appreciate you calling in, Mr. Brown, and we look forward to having you on the show next week. So everybody who's listening now, tell your friends, tell your family. We're going to have a very, very deep conscious discussion next week here on Conscious Fever on 97tobeatfm.com. We're going to have Mr. Brown himself. He has caused some controversy from a previous call where he made in, and you called in and you had the audience going crazy. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I can't wait for this.
I'm
excited.
So next week.
This.
So Mr. Brown, thanks for calling in. I am at the point where I need to sign off here because I am past my illustrious hour. So again, to all of those on Facebook Live who tuned in and to this broadcast tonight, thank you for joining me. Those on Ustream and those on the other cameras that we have here, and those on the big board here at our new studio, and those in the live studio.
That's on the 97thebeatfm.com website. Click on Live TV.
If you click on Live TV, then you see me there on 97thebeatfm.com. So again, thank you all for joining me. And Mr. Brown, we look forward to having you again next week. Next week, June 28th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Health, melanin, and melanated diet from a unique and different perspective. We're going to have Mr. John Brown joining us. And sounds like we're going to have a little bit more. Is that right, Mr. Brown? Or did we lose
Yes.
it? No, absolutely. Okay, a little bit more. So again, thank you so much for joining me here on Conscious Fever. I am about to tune out. DJ Ice is going to take us out with some music. Again, I
thank you for having me, and I look forward to it.
Okay, and we look forward to having you, sir. Thank you so much for calling in. And just to remind everybody, again, if your weekend is too hot or too soaky this weekend after leaving or right before it's time to go to the to Cox Park to deal with the three world's famous DJs, three of the world's best DJs that just happen to be here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then before you go, don't hesitate to join us at Oak Grove Missionary Baptist Church on the corner of 41st and Vermont Avenue, where we worship with our illustrious pastor, Alice French Johnson. So if you're not doing anything, join us there at Oak Grove Missionary Baptist Church. We have an outstanding, wonderful time. I'm Carl Price. This has been Conscious Fever here on 97thebeatfm.com. DJ Ice is going to take us out with some music. Thanks for joining us. And next week, don't forget the show. We'll see you then. Good night.
You are listening to Conscious Fever, hosted by Carl Price on 97thebeatfm.com.
This beat make you wanna do an old school dance, don't it? It make you wanna do an old school dance. This beat make you wanna do an old school dance.
Louisville's finest, DJ Ice.
97 The Beat FM.
You gonna learn today? Do an old school dance. Let me see you do an old school dance. Ain't no party like an old school party, cause old school music go hard. If you love yourself like I love myself, let me hear somebody make noise. That old school taught us how to stick together, spend money with each other, we'll be rich forever. Hustle for your fam, make sure everybody's straight. Put food on the table, make sure everybody ate. If it wasn't for the old, wouldn't be no music, wouldn't be no love, wouldn't be no groove, wouldn't be no jamming till 6 in the morning. Old school music made the party keep going. This beat make you wanna do an old school dance, don't it? It make you wanna do an old school dance. This beat make you wanna do an old school dance. Let me see you do an old school dance. This beat make you wanna do an old school dance, don't it? Make you wanna do an old school dance. This beat make you wanna do an old school dance. Let me see you do an old school dance. Hey, I was at this club, it was old school night. Okay. The DJ had them all on the dance floor, right? Look at them. You should have seen them doing old school dances. Hey. Everybody was doing old school dances. Birthday parties, they had drinks all over. A lot of celebrating, wasn't nobody sober. Dressed up the par, so I sat at the bar. Seen something sexy watching me from afar. She walked up and said, I wanna know who you are. Okay. You over here shining, so I know you a star. I told her first name Poker, last name Jones. I just came out to get my old school on.